Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be here in Detroit this afternoon. Just this morning I was in Grand Rapids, and it was an honor to be up there and to beat us down the street from the presidential library of a very famous Michilander, I guess I should say, and Grand Rapids' favorite son, and that's President Ford, our 38th president. He was the first president that I ever met. I've had the good fortune to meet three of them in my life, and President Ford was the first one. And I'd never forget that day. That day, I think, really instilled into me a sense of wanting to give back to one's country, one's community. Also, my government teacher instilled that in me, and I think those are two people who played vital roles to shape me into the person I am today, and I want to thank them. But it is indeed an honor to be here in Michigan, back up here in Detroit. I've loved your weather up here, by the way. Story about a couple of years ago when I came up to visit the Ford Presidential Library, and this was as I recall, this was in July, and came up and expecting to have warm weather. Being from Texas, it's 100 degrees every day. You're baking in the oven, and you go up to Grand Rapids, you get out the plane, it's in the 60s. Unbelievable. The first morning I was in Grand Rapids, as I went over to the Ford Presidential Library, I was amazed. I was dressed for summer, and I walked out the hotel, and it was a little chilly. But you just don't get 60-degree mornings in the summer in Texas. But I love Michigan. It's great to be up here with you. With the campaign fastly underway, we've had a lot of opportunities to hear the candidates out on the campaign trail. Talking a lot about each other, not a lot about the issues. Yeah, there's some out there who are talking about the issues, and I appreciate that. I'm going to tell you here this afternoon, I'm not going to sit here and slander another candidate. What I'm going to come here to do is I'm going to tell you my position on the issues. I think that is so important in the campaign right now. This campaign, it's almost like first and second graders going at each other. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about what is facing our country instead of slandering one another. So no slander today, but a talk about the issues. Okay? In the last 3 years, our nation has faced trials that have tested our resilience. From the unprecedented pandemic to the growing polarization, we have weathered storms that have challenged our unity. This afternoon, I stand before you, not just as a leader, but as a fellow citizen, ready to outline a vision to restore America to the pinnacle of its former glory. Yes, a vision, not a slander, a vision. In the past 3 years, almost 4 years, we have achieved significant progress, witnessing a remarkable reduction in unemployment from a staggering 15% to an impressive 3.3%, or just around that point. Now, think about it. Almost at this point right now, we were on the verge of a pandemic. This country was about to get locked down. Unemployment was about where it is right now, hovering around between 3.5%, 4%. Overnight, it went to 15.5%. Millions of Americans were without jobs. Millions. And we had to put in a program where we had to start paying people to stay at home. We had to. The government had no choice. By not doing that single program of paying the Paycheck Protection Program and paying people to stay at home, our economy would have been destroyed. But going on 4 years from now, 4 years later, there are still people that have not re-entered the workforce. Even with the pandemic back in our rearview mirror, there are still people who are claiming unemployment benefits who should be in the workforce. Under my administration, we are committed to overhauling the unemployment system. No longer will it be a system susceptible to exploitation. A new enhanced unemployment system will mandate a minimum of 5 job interviews per week for benefits, ensuring that every able-bodied American is presented with ample opportunities for gainful employment. Now, when I speak of able-bodied, let me be clear. I'm excluding our seniors and stay-at-home parents. Who I am addressing, however, are those who, despite the waning of the pandemic, opted for unemployment and have not returned to the workforce. This status quo needs to change, and under my leadership, it will. And another thing that needs to change, and I just believe it's just gotten out of control, is the astronomical cost of prescription drugs. It's not just a policy point, but a moral imperative. It's unjust for individuals to bear the burden of paying hundreds for medications while pharmaceutical companies reap millions in benefits. Now, think about a good friend of mine back in Texas, an educator. And as we all know, as you heard me talk about, and we're going to talk about a little bit later on here in this speech about education plan, educators aren't raking in the millions that Big Pharma is on profits. But it's not fair for an educator to spend, and this is a prescription she needs. It's not an option that she can live without. She needs this prescription. She's paying $700 for a prescription. How is that fair? How is that fair to charge somebody $700 when you got Big Pharma over here racking in billions in profits? It's got to come to an end. Now, another topic that's become a big hotbed of discussion, and I wish it would become more of discussion on the campaign trail, and it's probably really a big discussion here in Detroit, is the conversion to EV. We stand on the precipice of a significant shift towards electric vehicles. It's crucial to acknowledge the transformative potential they bring to our transportation landscape. However, our eagerness to embrace this change, we must exercise prudence and consider the readiness of our infrastructure. The transition to electric vehicles is not merely about swapping traditional cars for the electric counterparts. It involves a comprehensive overhaul of our infrastructure. Charging stations, power grids, and support systems need to be robust and widespread to truly facilitate a seamless EV experience for everyone. Rushing headlong into electric vehicle conversion without a well-established infrastructure is akin to setting sail without a navigational map. We risk encountering challenges that could hinder the adaptation process and leave us without unintended consequences. It's like having a powerful engine without the roads to drive on. Imagine a scenario where we embrace electric vehicles, but the charging infrastructure is inadequate. The result could be frustration, inconvenience, and a potential slowdown in the widespread adoption of cleaner transportation. And just back home in Texas, my hometown, 65,000 people, there could be more charging stations. I know of one at a restaurant. One charging station, 5 charging ports for 65,000 people, probably 30,000 cars. How is that going to work? It would take days to get an EV charged. But let me make this a point clear to you this afternoon. I am committed to going to EV. But I'm going to put this qualifier on it. We're only going to go to EV when the infrastructure in this country is ready to support that. We got candidates out in the trail saying it's going to be 20, 30 years. Mark my word, we will transition to EV when the infrastructure in this country can support it and not a day before. The infrastructure in place ensures the benefits of EVs are maximized while minimizing the potential pitfalls. Our journeys toward a sustainable future requires careful planning and strategic execution. Let us not be hasty in our pursuit, but rather deliberate in ensuring that our infrastructure is ready to support the electric revolution By doing so, we pave the way for a smoother, more efficient transition that benefits not only us, but generations to come. Now, I'm going to shift our focus to something that's big back in my, it's big across the country, but big back in my home state of Texas, and that's the borders. Let me affirm here today that the United States welcomes people, but it must occur through the proper channels, not through unauthorized crossings. We will reestablish border control to ensure order and security. Bottom line, that will happen. It needs to happen. It should have happened. It will happen. If we don't have border control at our north and south borders, we don't have a nation. And so much of the problems that I think are happening on our streets, the crime and all that, and even drugs, are contributed to border control. We will reestablish the border control. The fentanyl crisis is connected to border. It's unfolding with our nation and is alarming confluence of factors that demand urgent attention. We all know what fentanyl is and what it can do. We got to get control of it. We got to get control of the manufacturing, distribution of fentanyl. And it gets mixed with other substances that have given rise to a perilous landscape where even small quantities can induce fatal overdoses. Think about it. Every day on our southernmost border, there's enough fentanyl that crosses the border to kill every single person in this country. Every day, enough fentanyl to kill every single person in this country. And that must come to a stop. That must come to a stop. It's challenging for the authorities to curb it without effective policy. And this epidemic is not solely a law enforcement concern. It extends deep into public health, necessitating a approach using law enforcement efforts. It must intensify to dismantle illicit drug networks responsible for the production and distribution of fentanyl. Simultaneously, healthcare systems require bolstering to enhance addiction treatment, accessibility, and promote harm reduction strategies. Equipping communities with education and resources is paramount in fostering resilience and supporting those affected by the crisis. Addressing the fentanyl crisis mandates collaboration across various sectors, from government agencies and healthcare professionals to community organizations. Comprehensive policies that combine targeted law enforcement actions with evidence-based healthcare interventions can serve as a linchpin in migrating the crisis, immediate and long-term repercussions. Moreover, public awareness campaigns are pivotal to dispel myths, reduce stigma, and empower individuals and communities to navigate the challenges posed by fentanyl. As we confront the fentanyl crisis, it is imperative to recognize the far-reaching implications and mobilize resources effectively through a unified and multifaceted approach. We can strive to stem the tide of this devastating epidemic, safeguarding communities and fostering a healthier, more resilient society. And I truly believe that this fentanyl crisis, I think, requires a twofold approach. One, we reestablish border control. Two, we put the policies and the resources in place to curb fentanyl, and I think we will have this solved. I know we will have this solved. And there's another issue. Again, I'm talking issues. I'm not sitting here slandering my opponents. I'm sitting here talking the issues. The Middle East has been marred by decades of conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian issue remains at the heart of this turmoil. I firmly believe that a just and equitable solution lies in the establishment of two independent states, Israel and Palestine. Living side by side in peace and security, the two-state solution is not just a diplomatic concept, it is a vision for a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can coexist. Recognizing each other's right to self-determination, this solution is grounded in the principles of fairness, mutual respect, and the recognition of the legitimate aspirations of both peoples. It is essential to acknowledge the historical pain and suffering experienced by both Israelis and Palestinians. The two-state solution provides a framework to address the legitimate concerns and rights of both parties, ensuring a path to a reconciliation and coexistence. This approach offers a realistic and viable way forward, promoting stability and prosperity for the entire region. Supporting a two-state solution does not mean taking sides. Rather, it's an endorsement of a just and comprehensive resolution that accommodates the rights, security, dignity of both Israelis and Palestinians. It is a call for dialogue, diplomacy, and a commitment to finding common ground for the betterment of all involved. And I really believe in the two-state solution. What happened back in October is just truly devastating. You think about that Saturday morning, innocent women and girls getting raped, people just getting dragged out of their homes and getting killed for no reason at all. And it's got to come to a stop. And I think getting this two-state solution in place will hopefully solve the crisis in Israel. This is something that's been going on for many, many years, and I hope that this is a solution that will work. I'm going to say this next thing, and I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Deep in my heart, I firmly believe that taking one person's life is wrong. My religion tells me that. My heart tells me that. But I believe in the sanctity of life, and I recognize the profound value of every individual. At the same time, I firmly believe in a woman's right to make choices about her own body. Reproductive health. The issue of abortion rights is multifaceted, involving personal beliefs, ethical consideration, and legal frameworks. Supporting a woman's right to choose does not diminish the recognition of the inherent value of life. Rather, it acknowledges the complexities of individual circumstance and the autonomy that women deserve in making deeply personal decisions. It is crucial to approach this topic with empathy, understanding that each person's situation is unique. As a society, we must strive to create an environment where women have access to comprehensive reproductive health care, education, and support. It is essential to address root causes that may have led individuals to consider abortion and work towards a society that values the well-being of all its members. Let's put some education programs out there. Let's try to do what we can to preserve life. I firmly believe in that. But at the same time, the federal government should not stand in the way and dictate what a woman chooses to do with her own health. Legislation and policy should be crafted with careful consideration of both protection of life and the preservation of individual freedoms. Striking a balance between these values requires open dialogue, compassion, and a commitment to understanding the diverse perspectives that exist within our communities. And I truly believe we can get there. I know we overthrew Roe a couple of years ago, but this is the issue that's divided this country. And like I said, I know that in my heart and in my religion, it says it's wrong. But Washington or any other state or even federal level should not stand in the way of a woman's right to choose. Another thing that's close to my heart is education. Education reform stands as a pivotal cornerstone of our nation's restoration. Our classrooms should be sanctuaries of learning, not political battlegrounds. Education should pivot back to fundamentals, teaching history objectively to prevent the repeat of past mistakes. With a personal understanding of the challenges faced by educators, being married to one for almost 3 decades now, I recognize the need to increase teacher pay. While acknowledging it as a state-level matter, I pledge to assist states in funding these raises without encroaching upon their autonomy. And what I'm going to say here today is this. It's not going to be a Washington power grab. I know of one single program that is federally mandated, education program that's federally mandated, and that's pre-K. And they require their teachers to be certified teachers, and there's certain other requirements too. All Back to Basics is going to do It's going to give states the funding so we can give our teachers a livable wage. Restoring patriotism and reinforcing fundamentals like history and the ABCs is not just a campaign slogan I'm throwing out there, but an imperative. We reject the divisive influences of woke education. My education plan, adaptly named Back to Basics, aims to support teachers, provide quality education, and prepare students for the future by taking politics out of the classroom. And we need to pay teachers more. Teachers really have been underpaid for a long, long time. And you think about the work they do. A lot of people get an education because they think the schedule's fantastic. You got 3 months off, man. You got the 7:45 to 3:15 schedule. 3:15, you're out the door. You're in the car. You're on the way home. Well, breaking news for you. It's not that way. Andrea can tell you, and I can tell you that education is a commitment. It's a calling. It's an 80-hour-a-week job. And we need to recruit. We should be able to recruit the right talent, the right people to take these jobs, to teach our youth, and pay them the right pay. Respect for one another forms the bedrock of a united nation. We born witness to violent divisions, families shattered by gun violence. We advocate for gun reform without infringing on rights and increased mental health support for those in need. Really, gun reform has got to take place. I've come to this podium way too many times to say my thoughts and prayers are with the families tonight. It's got to come to a stop. Gun violence happens because of I think it's connected to mental health. It takes a lot to pull a trigger and kill somebody. I think if we had the mental health policies in place, the support in place, we will curb our gun violence and return our nation to the nation it once was. The plan unveiled here this afternoon is not merely a policy agenda. It's the opening chapter in our journey to restore the greatness of the United States. There is a great painter back in Texas called Tom Lay. Matter of fact, one of his paintings was on display in the Oval Office a few years back. One of his favorite paintings is about El Paso, mountains of El Paso. And Tom writes about the painting. He talks about how him and his wife Sarah live on the east side of the mountain. For it's living on the east side of the mountain, you can see the sunrise of the day ahead, not the sunset of the day behind. My fellow Americans, I believe the United States lives on the east side of the mountain, and our best days are ahead of us. May God bless you. May God bless our troops, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.